Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, InaneDragon, and welcome back to another installation of InaneExplanations, the web series where I summarize the basics of some concept, organization, or insanity into an easily digestible format laden with my own biases and preconceptions. It's all based on facts, sure, but I'm an opinionated son of a bitch, and there's no escaping the stupidity of some of these ideas. Speaking of stupid, tonight's topic is intelligent design. Let's avoid some confusion. I'm not talking some generic personal belief in an intelligent designer. I'm specifically talking about the movement that tries to prevent an all-powerful god as intelligent designer as though it were some kind of scientific hypothesis in opposition to the theory of evolution. Now, depending on which apologists you talk to, intelligent design is either the hypothesis or the theory that certain aspects of the natural world are best explained by invoking a supernatural intelligence. That's in no way dressing up creationism and creation science in secular clothing honest, even though it's funded and operated by the same people who funded and operated the creationist and creation science organizations back in the 80s. Seriously. Don't even think that just because they look, sound, and act like creationists using the same arguments as creationists, that they are creationists. Even though it's overwhelmingly evangelical Christians. Now that we've made it perfectly clear that the creationists working for the Discovery Institute and Biologic Institute to fabricate intelligent design are in no way trying to smuggle Christian creationism back into science, let's talk about what they believe and how it offers a theory with the same robust support as the neo-Darwinian synthesis of evolution. Still popular from the days of creation science, intelligent design relies heavily on the watchmaker argument from William Paley. This 19th century argument stems from a parable. Imagine you're walking along a beach, and on that beach you find a watch. You wouldn't think that watch just arose from nature, would you? No! Of course it had to have a designer. It's so clearly designed. Granted, you can tell this because you've not only seen other mechanical devices that were built and understand the history of making watches, but also because you truly know it's designed because it stands out against the backdrop of the natural world. That is, you found a watch on a beach made of sand, with birds flying in the air and a beached whale begging for death. You know the watch was designed because it's not sand nor water, not even a bird or a whale. If you genuinely wish to argue that all of nature must be designed, then you're talking about walking along a beach made of watches, listening to the chimes of watches flying in the air as a beached watch groans, its gears grinding together. From amongst all of this, you chose one watch and exclaimed, "This looks to be designed. Look at how different this one watch is from all of the other watches around us." Seriously, the watchmaker argument is so self-refuting, it's often referred to as the watchmaker fallacy. When they try to avoid the classical argument of William Paley, intelligent design apologists like to declare things to be irreducibly complex, which is really just a complicated version of the watchmaker argument, but with fancy, science-y sounding words. This whole tactic relies on not being noticed by biologists, who will generally go on to demonstrate numerous examples of the basic components or structures of the so-called irreducibly complex system in a reduced or less complex form. Take, for example, the eye. We can show you an amazing array of part of an eye, even in living creatures around the globe today. Sometimes apologists will try to get around this by insisting that if you took enough components away, something like the flagella in bacteria couldn't work as a flagellar motor. Thus, they say the flagellar motor is irreducibly complex. They tried this with the eye previously, but it didn't really work. Of course, not only have biologists shown that these things can work even after an extreme reduction in complexity, but that each of the components could develop independently for a different function, and then later, through minor mutations, come together into the flagellar motor. So basically, intelligent design proponents go on about how they aren't creative enough or knowledgeable enough to understand how things develop and declare themselves victorious through ignorance. Next, they'll move on to something called specified complexity, which could be called irreducible complexity redux, or the modern watchmaker fallacy redux redux. Here, they rely on an invented mathematical concept that not even its inventor claims to be able to justify as a real thing. According to this wild-ass guess and crazy speculation, there are things which are complex, things which are specified, and there are things which are complex and specified in nature. Of course, the worst part of this is that it begs the question by inserting God, an intelligent designer, into the starting premise. How, you may be asking? By calling things in nature specified before proving anything exists to do any specifying. And on top of that, minds are complex things. Very complex. And under this model, rather specified. Which means that any intelligent designer is necessarily the definition of specified complexity. So how'd our designer get designed? So to add on a fourth fallacy, the intelligent design movement insists that this specified complex thing doesn't require explanation because reasons. That is, they engage in the practice of special pleading, saying their specified complex thing is beyond explanation. The relationship to irreducible complexity and the watchmaker argument should be readily apparent, right? The whole idea of specified complexity is that it means things like DNA are too complex to occur naturally and clearly appears to be designed. So we can dismiss the whole concept out of hand, as it is self-refuting in every particular. Right! So clearly, since the intelligent design movement doesn't have an explanation for the evolved complexity of life on Earth, they fall back once more, this time to the notion that the entire universe is finely tuned for life at a fundamental level. Of course, they do this by assuming that the constants in physics could arbitrarily have any value whatsoever, without any evidence that this is true. They don't explain how they know that the values of these constants could have varied and aren't interdependent. It's just asserted. Once again, they don't understand what they're talking about and rely on the ignorance of themselves and their audience. More importantly, they rely on the fact that people want to have solid answers to questions. Uncertainty is uncomfortable, so they toy with your emotions and make an argument from ignorance that the world must be designed because how else could it be just right for us to live in? Then again, that also begs the question, why would the universe be designed in such a way that life, as we know it, can only exist on a minority of the surface of a single planet in a single solar system in a single galaxy of the entire universe? That seems like a rather poorly tuned universe for life, mate. And that's genuinely it. All of intelligent design hinges on these three fallacious arguments. It's got no there, and every bit of research published in journals owned by intelligent design advocacy groups relies on the assumption that these arguments are logically and scientifically sound. Since they are neither, they aren't science but religion, and that's why America doesn't teach intelligent design in the classroom. Controversy over, intelligent design is a scientific alternative to evolutionary theory, proven wrong again. Everybody go home. Actually, before you go, I found a series of questions students are meant to ask their teachers on behalf of intelligent design. Basically, to try and catch them unprepared to handle a stupid question without crossing the line between religion and school and getting into trouble. In the spirit of helping a brother out, I'll be doing a mini-series answering these questions for you all. Maybe if you're a biology teacher, these will help you address a student using these questions to undermine science. It's been fun, but it's time for me to go. I'm your host, InaneDragon, and if you've enjoyed this inanity, consider subscribing for more. There's always rating and commenting down below. I rather enjoy the discussions, but that's your bag. For the truly deranged, consider donating to my Patreon so that I can buy more beer, so that I can watch and read and research more of these topics. Thank you all, and good night.